Good evening. The February 9th City Council meeting will come to order. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Here.
Councilmember Burns.
Here.
Councilmember Sufferton. Councilmember Davis. Here. Councilmember Rogers. Here. Councilmember Hadakaris.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Present.
Councilmember Isles.
Here.
Mayor Biss.
Here, we are all present, which both constitutes a quorum and makes clear there is no need for approval of virtual participation this evening. Therefore, the next item on the agenda is my public announcements and proclamations, of which there is one. I want to share both my enthusiasm for the event and the community's pride for some young people. Last Thursday evening, the African American Youth Achievement Awards took place. It's a wonderful annual celebration of African American students in our schools and their remarkable achievements. I want to give a shout out to Councilmember Harris, who has been for years playing a lead role in organizing this event that takes place at ETHS, a role that she inherited in part from her mom, Denise Martin, and former principal, who was instrumental in that event for some time. The event, by the way, was founded by Dolores Holmes and Mary Wilkerson, two giants in our community who we miss and think about every day. And so it's really my joy to share the names of the students who were honored on Thursday evening. First, from Shute Middle School, two 8th graders, Ava Benia Worsley and Kyrie Overton. Then from Dawes Elementary, 4 5th graders, Zakiah Ann Bryan, Aiden Anthony Haynes, Avery Jenkins, and Josiah Singleton. From Bessie Rhodes, a 4th grader, Gabriella Luxday St. Jean, and a 5th grader, Braddox Mitchell Grays Virgil. From King Arts, two 8th graders, Luke Xavier Moore and Shazira Rain Harris. From ETHS, a number of students, two 9th graders, Aaron Anderson and Malia Alexis Young, two 10th graders, Ramatulahi Fatai and Jordan Collins, an 11th grader, Rachel Tamba, and two 12th graders, Jishelle Berry and Joseph A. Davis, who also goes by Joey. From Haven, two 8th graders, Kaylor Cartier Cordell Connor and Brooklyn Wilkerson. From Kingsley, two 5th graders, Byron Haziz and Zola Lawson. From Lincoln, two 5th graders, Halimat Oladimehi and Kadamarian Kendricks. From Lincolnwood, two 5th graders, Angel Braby and Julian James Lott. From Oakton, a 5th grader, Josiah Johnson, and a 4th grader, Nathaniel Antoine. From Orrington, a 5th grader, Aurelia German, and a 4th grader, Carter Simmons Boyd. From Park School, the 12th grader, Etienne Wilson, and a 4th grader, Princeton Blaze Daly. From Washington, 4th grader, Crew Major, and 5th grader, Genesis Annalise Grace Cummings. And from Willard, two 5th graders, Corlin Lugo and Michael Wright. Would you all join me in congratulating these wonderful young achievers in our community? The next item on our agenda is the city manager's public announcements.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and Clerk Mendoza. I wanted to take a few moments first to speak about Mr. Robert Schonk, who passed away in January after a long illness. Bob served as the City of Evanston's finance director from 1971 to 1998, nearly 3 decades. Former city employees describe him as unflappable, a great public servant, and a wonderful man and mentor. Bob was an active parishioner at St. A's in Evanston and served others through the St. Vincent de Paul Society. Contributions may be made to the Jim Rader Helping Hand Scholarship Fund, which assists high school students who demonstrate academic promise. We'd like to extend our deepest sympathies and condolences to his wife, his 3 children, and other family and friends. Also tonight, with a heavy heart, I regret to share the news of the passing of Craig Francelno, a longtime city staff member. Craig is the husband of longtime CMO staff member Dara Francelno and the father of Carmen Francelno, a longtime EPL staff member. Craig worked for the city from 1975 to 2008 in the Streets Division of the Public Works Department. Craig was a terrific person, a mentor, and quiet leader, supportive of many young people in Evanston over the years, including our own Chief Stewart. Contributions may be made to the Moran Center for Youth Advocacy or the Trade Collective. We would like to extend our deepest sympathies and condolences to the Francelno family and their friends. The next item tonight is a brief presentation on the bicycle access voucher pilot. Sarah Fiorito, our Transportation Mobility Coordinator, will present. Welcome, Sarah.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor and Council and Clerk Mendoza and the community. All right, so just some very quick comments. We do have now the report about this program, which has a lot of different details and things online that you can find there on the Transportation and Mobility section of the city website. My name is Sarah Fiorito, and I was coordinating this program. So all in all, next slide, please. This program was an income qualified program aimed at expanding access to bicycle transportation. It was funded by the Northwestern Good Neighbor Fund as directed by council as part of other community electrification initiatives. And the program extended from fall 2024 to summer 2025, serving 65 participants. And in partnership with Evanston's 6 area bike shops. Not only did this program support folks with accessing vouchers to access bicycle helmets, locks, lights, and service, but also supported access to cycling safety and skills courses. The majority of folks who participated in the program did receive our standard voucher. If you want to know more about how we price the standard vouchers, we do actually go into very detailed pricing in the report. Also, 10 of those participants received e-bike or adaptive bike vouchers that were worth more than that. And folks who qualified were Evanston residents 14 and older and who met a household income threshold of 80% of the area median income as defined by HUD. So a couple key findings that I want to highlight from our end of program survey. So this program did get people riding. We saw more people riding because of this program, some of whom actually notably, we saw about a third of participants actually rode their bicycle as their primary mode of transportation after this program. So that's a pretty big deal. Another one I want to highlight there is about 84% reported that they rode their bicycle regularly for transportation after the program. One other key finding that's great for us going into this bike plan process that our public works team is leading is that we did see a lot of folks report when we asked them what factors would encourage you to ride your bicycle more for transportation. We did hear folks say that feeling safer on the street and having more designated cycling facilities on the street would enable them to cycle more. So that's a great finding and definitely useful for future programs. Finally, moving forward, and we do detail this more in the report, as we go towards an expanded Divvy network, this Divvy for Everyone program, we're going to be working with our community partners to promote that program and to support people signing up for it. This is for folks who who are at or below 300% at the federal poverty level. And so this is going to be something that we really want to get folks out there using because it's $5 for the year and gives you unlimited access to 45-minute rides on Divvy bicycles, which is pretty amazing. The other thing that we're going to be doing to supplement that, because not everyone can use Divvy, you have to be 16 and over. We are going to be working with both our educational partners and other community partners to do programming that supplements this so that we can make sure that we are continuing to reach folks. We also know that a lot of people who use bicycles every day as their mode of transportation, depending on where they live, may also have a need for an owned bicycle as opposed to a Divvy. So we want to keep working to figure out how we can supplement these programs and create a patchwork of offerings. Finally, check out the report on the website. It's on the Transportation and Mobility section under the City Manager's office where you can learn more. And big shout out to our bike shop partners and the key staff who worked on this and the many, many staff who contributed to this report and to this program. Thank you.
Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Sorry, again, with the microphone on, did we learn anything at all about why people might choose to use a bicycle for transportation?
Yeah, so we we actually learned a lot from participants through the program survey and through what they shared with us. So key things that came out were affordability. A lot of people were looking for something affordable. Some folks who are relying on the public transit system did not feel like it was serving them to the extent that they need right now. We also learned that people were using it for flexibility and just for also interest in being physically active. A lot of folks reported that some folks actually reported that this was the most physical activity now that they have their bike that they've had in many years, which was pretty cool. And we did include some highlight quotes in the report.
Are there further comments or questions? Thanks so much for this important work.
Thank you very much.
The city manager's announcements continue, but with an exciting change that Karina Sanchez, Deputy City Manager, is now acting in the city manager role for the rest of the evening. And the city manager's announcements have concluded. The next item on the agenda is communications from the city clerk.
I don't have communications. Thank you.
We now move to public comment. If my math is correct, there are exactly 15 people signed up, so everyone will get 3 full minutes. We begin, as always, with those who signed up on paper to speak in person, beginning with Doris Stein, who will be followed by Tina Payden, and then Carlos Sutton.
Good evening, council members, our honorable mayor, and my neighbors. My name is Doris Stein. I've lived in Evanston most of my life. This new city hall looks very different. Years back, I actually worked for the city in the planning department. I'm here today to make some comments about parking lot 1, which is the South Shore development, and some frustrations my neighbors and I are having. We had a final on-site meeting October 15th with our aldermen and staff from Pearl and some others, and Charles Davidson and others, and other people that are now gone. We were told that certain things would happen, and they haven't. We commented on October 15th that per the city's own rules and the state rules, there's supposed to be the name of the construction company, who is in charge, and who to call. That has not happened. It was actually noted by the city manager that there have been complaints about it last month. We brought that up on October 15th. Still hasn't happened. There have been management changes, all sorts of things. We shouldn't have to ask. We should be informed. I have seen various iterations of what was going to go there since 2004. You heard our mayor talk about Dolores Holmes. I was approved when Dolores Holmes was an alderperson for a rehab loan, and then I was told by the city that I was not going to get it because they were going to be taking my home for development. I've lived through many iterations of it. The last time when something went across the street, my home and my neighbors' homes were damaged. We were supposed to be getting weekly, because we did ask for that, weekly monitoring reports. Some of my other neighbors couldn't come today because they were so ill. I came back from taking my husband for medical testing, couldn't even lie down on the bed, it was shaking. We called and we were told, Sean got back to us and said, we get the reports, but we're supposed to be getting them. We call 311 when they start early, and 311 isn't even open when they start ahead of time. And when we complained about that, the response was, well, just keep calling 311. Not what can we do to help you. And that's very, very frustrating. We've asked questions. Is the building going to be paying taxes? So is my time up? All right, but I have a lot of questions We all do, and we're not getting the answers. This is not the Evanston that I used to work for, and this is not the Evanston that I knew. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Tina Payden, who will be followed by Carla Sutton, and then Steve Test.
Good evening, everyone. Tina Payden. Number one, I would like to talk about, I sent all of you the changes in the vacation rentals, and it's very important that it says that the units are rented for less than 30 consecutive days. It's very, very important. I'd also like to talk about, as you know, it is Black History Month. And I said at the reparations that Black History, Morgan Freeman said he didn't like Black History Month because Black history should be taught every day. It's American history. Unfortunately, we have at reparations, they said the economic development program, they're going to give $500 to $3,000 for a startup business. But yet, here tonight, you have EDC1. You're going to give one person $100,000 to start up her business. Another white person. You have only given a few Black people pennies. And you keep repeating the same Black people pennies to start up a business. There's no clawback or anything for this girl. Yet she came to the Fifth Ward meeting to do her presentation. And I said, are you going to do the pop-up business in the Fifth Ward? No, I'm going downtown. Is somebody going to blow a whistle for me? All of these grants for white people, there's only one commercial owner and operator downtown Evanston, and that's the Robinsons. Doesn't anybody seem to think something is wrong with that? So here we are just throwing money away for one person again, while we're over here struggling, trying to get a penny. And we call ourselves fair and equitable. And we want to talk about, I was at an event where the mayor said he was proud of reparations. I didn't get reparations. And my house and my neighborhood was taken for eminent domain. Not just this time, my family was taken for eminent domain before, and I don't have any Black neighbors. They were all taken away. So when you're considering this $100,000 to this one person, you think about all the Black people you don't serve.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Carla Sutton, who will be followed by Steve Test, and then John Story Williamson.
Good evening, members of the council, mayor, and others. I stand here tonight in opposition to the proposed amendments to change rentals units in Evanston. The current law states specific dates when these should be enforced. Without them coming back to the council to change the legislation, you should not be voting on something that's been proposed now by community development that's in contradiction with our existing laws and dates on short-term rentals. Secondly, I do not want you to approve any change of ordinance resolution 20R26 where you're making changes on Darrell without contacting the stakeholders in the community. You should have a meeting with the people in our community and let them know of these proposed developments before you vote on them tonight. I thank you for this time, and I hope that I won't have to come here again and remind you that the staff and you should represent all Evanstonians, not just a few.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Steve Test, who will be followed by John Story Williamson and then Paul Breslin.
Steve Test, 1135 Hinman Avenue. I sent this list to you all in an email, and just so you don't tell me that you didn't see it, because I'm showing it to you right now. These are all, as many of you know, I've spent a lot of time this last year following the ins and outs of the comprehensive plan, and now that it's more or less final, I went through and pulled out all of the policies that I could find that impact housing and would inform zoning. And I came up with a list of 11, and I'm told that there's probably a couple others, something about corporate ownership of housing. And so I'll just blast through this list real fast. Develop strategic housing plan, that's in the works. None of these others are. Complete housing needs assessment. Expand land trust policies and identify land trust sites. Consider the preferences of residents in each neighborhood. That's a shorthand that goes on longer than that. Publish an independent analysis that projects likely impacts. This is the Bobby Burns amendment that I think is absolutely essential before any zoning happens. Develop a housing database and policies to preserve existing housing stock. Develop policies to prevent existing naturally affordable housing and income restricted subsidized housing. Get my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing here. Develop anti-displacement plan and programs. That particular thing shows up 3 times in various policies. Incredibly important. Assess neighborhoods to identify opportunities to add a range of housing typologies. Establish an urban design commission. Develop guidelines for new development. And then the policy about corporate housing ownership. I'll add this to the list and bring it back the next time. All of these, it's clear to me, and many of my friends and neighbors, these are all essential before you do anything about zoning. If you change it zoning, half of these become moot. They become just lip service and window dressing and fluff filler for the comprehensive plan. If you don't take these things into account before doing zoning, you will produce zoning regulations that will be missing lots of information. Doing all of these things would make any zoning regulations and housing plan better. You'll have information, you'll know what you're doing. And so I am looking forward to hearing when the city council is going to put all these things on the agenda and take them up. These are policies in the document that you wrote and approved. So either assign staff to do it or you guys take it up. I'm looking forward to seeing when this gets taken up. Thanks.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is John Story Williamson, who will be followed by Paul Breslin and then Meg Welch.
Good evening. John Story Williamson, 864 Sheridan Road. I'm speaking tonight about the proposed City Council goals. Council goals are intended to guide future policy making. They are not meant to retroactively legitimize actions that have already occurred, especially actions that were never authorized by this council and never fully disclosed to the public. Over the past 2 years, residents have watched major housing and zoning policy direction take shape well before those priorities were ever debated or adopted as council goals. The clearest example is the pro-housing grant. The $7 million pro-housing grant was accepted without council authorization, yet leverage letters represented firm commitments of city funds and city assets. Those two things do not comfortably coexist in good governance. Despite that, language drawn directly from Biden-era HUD policy frameworks now appears embedded in these proposed council goals. After the fact, making it seem as though these priorities were democratically adopted locally rather than introduced through a federal grant process that never received council approval. When council goal language mirrors decisions already in motion, it ceases to be guidance and becomes ratification. That undermines the integrity of this process and weakens this council's own authority. Council goals should constrain staff direction, not be rewritten to justify commitments already made outside this chamber. They must be prospective, not retroactive. I urge the council tonight to acknowledge what has occurred to reassert its policymaking role and to ensure that Evanston's goals are set here in public before commitments are made, not after.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Paul Breslin, who will be followed by Meg Welch, and then Sheila Sullivan.
Paul Breslin, First Ward. I was going to talk about some of the things that John just did, but I'll curtail that since he said most of it. We found the process puzzling. Why, for instance, when zoning had been decoupled from the comprehensive plan, did a new consultant be hired to consider zoning and the comprehensive plan together? Why, when a directive had been issued authorizing the city to negotiate a contract with Tesco Associates, did the city back off of that, say nothing about it, and then instead hire HDR? Well, that started off a series of FOIA requests from which we learned that the federal pro-housing grant had been in process going back before the comprehensive plan was even published. Moreover, that extensive counseling on this was offered by Connections for the Homeless, which has become a de facto arm of the city government, which is inappropriate for an advocacy group. This is supposed to be a resident-driven process. Having said this about the process, I will now talk about the product. There was an article in the New York Times published on Thursday with the title, "Why Building Alone Won't Solve the Housing Crisis." And I'm addressing council, but I'm also addressing all of you. This is something you need to know about. You've been sold the idea, published by Dominic Vose in the Roundtable, that it's a simple matter of economics. You just build more stuff, the supply increases, the demand goes down. Well, that's not what's happening. So a new report says that if communities simply build more homes, rents and home prices don't come down. A study by the Georgetown Center on Poverty and Inequality, published in January, says in cities that aggressively build housing in recent years, rents rose dramatically for low-income households and stabilized for wealthier ones. The new rental housing that was built was often luxury housing with studios and one-bedroom units that targeted young single professionals, but were too small and too expensive for low-income households with children. Sound familiar? New single-family homes for sale were larger than they were in the past, aimed at wealthier buyers, not cash-strapped first-time home buyers. The other thing that's been found is that insurance for rental property owners has skyrocketed and driven up their costs. So has urban land cost. So there are things, to make their ROI, they have to charge more, and that's why it isn't a simple supply and demand equation. End of story.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Meg Welch, who will be followed by Sheila Sullivan, and then Kira Kelly. If Ms. Welch isn't here, we'll move ahead with Sheila Sullivan, who will be followed by Kira Kelly, and then Linda Damashek. If Sheila Sullivan isn't here, we'll move ahead with Kira Kelly, who will be followed by Linda Damashek, and then Mary Rosinski. And if Ms. Kelly isn't here, we'll move ahead with Linda Damashek, who will be followed by Mary Rosinski.
Thank you. Okay. I want to talk to you tonight about the short-term rental ordinance, which I have spoken about before, and I know Alderman Giacaris agrees with me because you said at City Council and in the newspaper that the commodification of housing is not something that you support. Oh, goodness. Sorry. Sorry. Anyway, so you made some changes that were good, but I think you need to go much, much farther. Most importantly, any increase in short-term rentals reduces housing supply, which is completely opposite to what you all have been saying during the comprehensive plan, and which you have put forth in your goals. So I agree with Tina Payton that you should have it be less than 30 consecutive days. I disagree, I believe you've left this in, that 25% of a building could be rental units, short-term rental units. If you are in a 24-unit building, 6 are allowed. You would have a quarter, three quarters of the residents in that building would have like a motel in their midst, and I think that's completely unacceptable. And basically, I can't imagine, one of the major changes that you made was just so that you could get the hotel tax money easily. I can't imagine that the amount of money that you get from this at all offsets the negative impact on the quality of life of Evanstonians that have this as their neighbor. It's the commodification of housing, and it's just inappropriate. It's also inappropriate given the fact that your council goals are talking about increasing housing supply. Now, we have been talking to you and explaining how the experts say that increasing housing supply is not going to create affordability, but you've held to this. So it's hypocritical for you to say that you're going to just put in increased supply. If you want to increase, you should change your goal to say that you want to increase affordable housing supply. So that's what the comprehensive plan has been sold on, and you need to follow through, and you need to have your city goals, your city council goals align with what you've been saying all along. So in no way should you keep the goal to just say supply. You need to change it to increase affordable housing supply. It's easy to build luxury housing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Mary Rosinski.
Hi, thank you. I agree with Linda. You can't just say supply, because supply, we know in the real estate, it's so much more than current existing cost of housing. But I'm also here to talk about the council goals. I would strongly urge you to reorder your priorities so that financial accountability and operational performances come first. Sound fiscal management is the foundation of every other goal and helps make it possible. From financial accountability flows our ability to fund housing, climate resilience, public safety, parks, and infrastructure. The second point that I'd like to talk about tonight is I think Evanston has a governance problem going on. There's a growing pattern where decisions that belong to you guys, City Council, are instead being made by staff. And when unelected staff becomes setting policy rather than carrying it out, our democratic government is quietly replaced by administrative control. And that has to concern everybody, regardless of which side of the issue you're on. Over the past several years, staff has acted beyond administrative control, canceling city-directed actions, pursuing major policy shifts, committing the city to timelines and funding strategies without transparent council approval or public knowledge. And one clear example, as you've heard today, begins in 2022, where through the Freedom of Information request, we know that staff canceled out a council-approved strategic plan, comprehensive plan, claiming it had failed when it had not. Then in 23, staff issued a second material different financial plan without council vote, while simultaneously pursuing a $7 million pro-housing grant, committing Evanston to completing a revised comprehensive plan and zoning code, all to be done by 2025 without open discussion at council, land use, or with public knowledge. And then on tonight's agenda, staff recommended exempting a $13 or $14 million project from the responsible bidding ordinance, which we had just passed, and that's our policy. And that they suggested initially removing it in the name of pursuing a grant that time was running out. And my feeling is that the staff, we like that you are appreciated and council getting grants, but we can do it with timelines. We know these grants are coming out well before the deadline. So if we wait till the last moment and say we had to bypass policy in order to get the grant, there's something wrong. So I just want to say, I hope you guys will pay attention to that, take back the council, and don't be making decisions outside of your own authority and without public knowledge. Thank you very much.
It looks like Sheila Sullivan has arrived, so we'll go back to Sheila Sullivan.
Thank you very much. I want to emphasize the concerns about process are not a distraction from policy. They are foundational to it. Over the past many months, we've stood up here and commented on how Envision Evanston 2045 development process was kind of a sham, window dressing, because the concerns of at least 50% of residents weren't really considered. These residents didn't even really understand the process the city was following. It was not transparent. That process, though perhaps well-intentioned, lost legitimacy when residents learned that key decisions were made off the public record or under timelines driven by external funding deadlines, such as those of the HUD pro-housing grant. In that situation, many residents and advisory bodies raised concerns about early, not about outcomes, but about how hard and when decisions were being made. If you don't have a process that's transparent and that people understand, you become a deceitful governing body. Council goals signal how Evanston governs itself. If those goals appear to validate a process that sideline deliberation or compressed oversight, public trust will continue to erode. Tonight, City Council has an opportunity to reaffirm that major policy direction originates at the Civic Center through open governance. And I urge you to reaffirm that and, go forward with the zoning in that direction. Also, I want to speak a little bit about sequencing. The plan, the EE 2045 plan, includes multiple policies that explicitly call for preparatory work before zoning changes, such as housing assessments, anti-displacement strategies, neighborhood analysis, and design guidelines. These steps were not presented as optional. They're intended to inform and safeguard later implementation. Yet today's zoning reform appears to be moving forward while many of these foundational actions remain incomplete. As Council considers its goals, I urge caution about adopting language that assumes implementation is settled when the plan itself calls for substantial groundwork first. Council goals should reinforce proper sequencing, not bypass it. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That completes the list of people who signed up on the sheet. We now move to those who signed up online, beginning with those who signed up online to speak in person, beginning with Maggie Peng, who will be followed by Kelly Mack, and then John Fell. I don't see Ms. Peng here either, in which case we'll move ahead with Kelly Mack, who will be followed by John Fell.
Good evening, Council. My name is Kelly Mack. I have been a resident of the 6th Ward for almost 15 years, and I'm one of the owners of Mack's Biking Goods on the west end of Central Street, where we will celebrate being open 6 years in March. I wanted to make two brief comments this evening, one regarding the Bicycle Access Voucher Pilot Program, and one in support of the Retail Pop-Up Incubator Program. Regarding the bicycle access voucher program, my partner and I would like to express our sincere appreciation to the city staff for this work on the initiative, especially Sarah Fiorito, who served as our primary point of contact as one of the participating shops. As noted in the findings shared tonight's report, on page 11, 64% of the program participants cited safer streets and expanded bicycle infrastructure as factors that would encourage increased bicycle use. I'm also happy to report that due to today's above freezing temperatures, it allowed me to ride roughly 10 miles throughout our town, and I share that same desire for safer, more connected infrastructure. I look forward to continuing to help build a connected network of bicycle lanes that support transit via bicycle, and continue collaboration with city staff and community partners such as the Evanston Transit Alliance through the ongoing bicycle plan update. In addition, I would like to express support for the proposed retail pop-up incubator program. As a small business owner in Evanston myself, I strongly believe in the value of this initiative. Claire has consistently demonstrated through her professional experiences in the past that her work delivers meaningful results, and more recently through her ensemble market put on this past winter in Bookman's Alley, she showed a clear vision for strengthening our community in a thoughtful way, particularly within the small business ecosystem. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We then move on with John Fell. Yes, with John Fell.
I'm John Fell. I live at 2008 Harrison. Good evening. I just want to have a couple of concerns about the proposed vacation rental ordinance. One of my concerns would be that expanding the definition of short-term rentals, to include just any furnished dwelling offered for less than a year, I think risks capturing legitimate midterm housing usages by the city. These could be people using furnished finder, nurses visiting, professors visiting, there's people in transition. There's currently, I looked today, there were over a dozen websites beyond Airbnb and VRBO offering these types of rentals. And I don't know if you're aware of that or not. One of them is sabbaticals.com, where professors who might go away for the summer can lease their homes. A lot of different uses that really have nothing to do with short-term rentals. So I want to just hope you're thinking about the full impact on that. Secondly, you're putting in a 600-foot separation between vacation rentals, and I just am unclear, and hopefully you can address how that's going to exist with currently licensed rentals. And how this would be handled if there's a rental across the street from me, who would be the one of the 600 feet. I just don't know that specifying how close rentals could be is really fair and valid. So I just asked you to clarify both these provisions, and that hopefully that this can be more predictable and real for those of us who own rentals to know where we stand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That completes the in-person portion of public comment. We now move on to those who signed up to speak online, beginning with Kimberly Bulwa, who will be followed by Meg Welch, and then Kira Kelly. It looks like Kimberly Bulwa may not be in the Zoom, is that correct? In that case, we'll move ahead with Meg Welch, who will be followed by Kira Kelly. Ms. Welch, are you able to unmute yourself?
Hello, if you could indulge me just a little bit. I'm doing this from my iPhone due to a delayed metro train. I just walked in my house. What I would like to do, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay. I'd like to briefly contrast tonight's proposal with the council goals process used in 2023. In 2023, council identified broad priorities, sent them to committees, debated reach goals, and clearly separated goal setting from implementation. That process respected sequencing and preserved council authority. What concerns many residents now is that goal summaries are being presented after significant implementation has already occurred, particularly on housing and land use. And as an example, our mayor sent a letter to Chase Bank referencing our housing goals when we had not even decided, the council had not even deciding what our housing goals were. So that makes the goals feel more like confirmation than direction. So if council wants to rebuild public confidence in its governing role, returning to the discipline and sequencing of the prior goals process would be a meaningful step. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Kira Kelly.
Hi. First, I do also want to urge you to sort of detail out, in terms of the housing goals, to expand affordable housing supply. And this is because it was the most controversial, just stating it as it is sort of the most aggressive language that has been used so far. And really, this was the most controversial part of the comprehensive plan. It was negotiated over the 6+ months, that language in particular, from the LUC, which arrived at a hard-fought compromise language that was then oddly flagged by staff, or, they wanted more discussion and more direction. And from there, Alderman Nieuwsma and Isles tried hard to change that policy statement to more aggressive language, to no avail, until Alderman Davis finally got her amendment approved. Then a revote was required because of a supposed procedural issue. And instead of the expected language on that, there was a much more aggressive version that was put forward. So with all this negotiating back and forth, it doesn't seem right to have the most controversial language just plunked right back in there without any qualifiers. As my kids like to say, it's kind of a cheat key. In this case, it's too open-ended, and we now know that it could really be used to justify a very strong directive in the zoning phase. And some residents who have talked to you have been investigating the pro-housing grant, are concerned that the grant might be influencing certain words and direction. And so I would just say let's leave it at language we can all get around. And then also quickly, and I probably don't have time to talk much about this, but I wanted to flag a serious concern in the city's RFP for zoning consultant related to how staff proposes to analyze public input. And as written on pages 6 and 8, the RFP states that public engagement will be analyzed for alignment with Evanston's demographics, including calculating weighted data based on tenure and some other factors. And in plain terms, despite the fanfare around the importance of public input, this means residents' input will not be weighed equally, and particularly those who are longtime Evanstonians will be mathematically discounted. And that just doesn't make sense. Also, this means that, if I'm understanding this correctly, other voices, non-residents, seem to be able to participate, and I wonder if they will be, not kind of weighed differently. Do they have more influence than longtime residents who will be kind of because of their longtime tenure. And this also seems like a policy change. And I want to know when this was approved by City Council. And if not, why is this included in direction defining how public input will count in zoning, which is a pretty big deal legally, the public input in zoning. So in the Housing for All, I see it was used, this weighted process, which I wasn't aware about, and it boosted support for favored policies, in particular creating new housing to address gaps in supply. By weighting it like this,
Thank you very much.
It boosted support for that by 9%, and in some cases as much as 18%. Anyway,
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes public comment for the evening. We're now going to, as is our new practice, skip past special orders of business to see what part of the consent agenda is consented to. We are going to further implement our newer practice of enumerating the items as folks consider potential removal from the consent agenda. And we're going to do it in a new experimental way, asking each block of the agenda to be read by the chair of the relevant committee, beginning with Councilmember Kelly, who will read the ANPW chunk of the consent agenda.
Great, thank you. So as I read them, I ask if folks could council members could let me know if you want any of these items removed. So item A1, approval of the City of Evanston payroll and bills list. Item A2, approval of agreement with Schneider Electric Buildings for building automation system upgrades at various city facilities. A3, approval of contract with Inliner Solutions for a 2026 CIPP sewer rehabilitation contract. Item A4, approval of contract award with Ozinga for single source purchase of concrete materials. Item A5, approval of a single source purchase of a mobile POD camera trailer. Item A6, resolution 10R26, authorizing the city manager to submit a grant application for federal funding through better utilizing investments to leverage development grant program. I would like to pull that one off. Item A7, resolution 13R26, approving the City of Evanston's Class Z city entity liquor license application for the Noise Cultural Arts Center. Item A8, resolution 14R26, approving the City of Evanston's Class C entity liquor license for the Evanston Ecology Center. Item A9, resolution 15R26, approving Santa Eulalia LLC's Class C restaurant liquor license application for Gigio's Pizzeria. Item A10, resolution 10R26, approving Tresina Cuisine Group LLC's Class C liquor license for Tian Bistro. And item A11, resolution 17R26, approving Northlight Theater's Class E2 liquor license application for Northlight Theater, 1012 Church Street. Item A12, resolution 18R26, approving St. Errant Brewing LLC's Class 1 craft beer wine liquor license application for St. Errant Brewing. Item A13 has been removed from the agenda. Item A14, 0126, amending Title I, Chapter 17, contracts with the city. I'll remove that for intro and action. Item A15, ordinance authorizing the city manager to sell city-owned property at 2120 and 2122 Darrow Avenue. I'd like to remove that one. Item A16, ordinance 6026, amending City Code Section 101118, residence parking only districts. Item A17, ordinance 7026, amending City Code 101110, limited parking, Section 101118, resident parking only districts. So
are there any items besides A6, A13, A14, and A15 from the ANPW section of the agenda that folks would like removed for discussion?
Okay, then I would like to move the consent agenda minus items A.
Well, let's do them in one motion. I don't think we need to have 6 different motions. So.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, yep.
So now the next is P&D. Councilmember Burns.
Resolution 20R26 approving a plat of subdivision for 1805 Church Street, 1708 Darrow Avenue, 1710 Darrow Avenue, 1811 through 1815 Church Street. Ordinance 14026 granting a special use for a domestic animal daycare center and kennel located at 1710 Maple Avenue in the RP Research Park District.
Would anyone like to remove item P1 or P2 from the consent agenda? Seeing not, Councilmember Burns, you're, I think, again next with HCDC.
Approval of ordinance 2026 to amend Title 5, Chapter 9 of the City Code vacation rentals.
I would ask that be removed.
All right, that's removed. Next, Economic Development, Councilmember Sufferton.
Economic Development Committee, item number 1, approval of retail pop-up and incubator strategy and implementation plan.
I'd like to pull that.
Finance and Budget, Councilmember Rogers.
Thank you. I move item FB1, Resolution 11R26, expressing official intent regarding expenditures from the funds of the City of Evanston, Cook County, Illinois, to be reimbursed from proceeds of obligations to be issued by the City of Evanston. This is for action. Item FB2, Resolution 12R26, adopting an updated pension funding policy for public safety pension plans. Again, this is for action.
Would anyone like to remove either of those items from the consent agenda? Seeing not, let's go ahead with the Human Services agenda. Councilmember Hedegardis.
So HS1, Ordinance 9026, amending City Code Title 8, Chapter 18, Section 5, Prohibition of Smoking. That is for introduction. HS2, Ordinance 11026, amending Title 9, Chapter 4, Section 7, Restraint of Animals Required to the City Code.
I would like HS2 removed, please.
Okay. That was for introduction. HS3, Ordinance 12026, amending City Code Title 7, Chapter 10, Section 13, Regulations of Dog Park. That is for introduction. HS4, Ordinance 16026, amending Title 8, Chapter 6, Sections 6 and 7, Terms of Licenses, Renewal, and Licenses and Other Fees, and that is also for introduction.
Would anyone like to remove items HS 1, 3, or 4 from the consent agenda? Seeing not, the removed items are the following: A6, A13, which is no longer under consideration, A14 for introduction and action, A15, HCDC 1, EDC 1, and HS2. I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I will move the consent agenda minus items A16, A13, A14, A15, HCDC 1, EDC 1, and HS2.
Hold on, before anyone seconds, I think you meant A6, not A16.
I did. Yes. Thank you.
Second.
Councilmember Nieuwsma moves approval of the consent agenda with the following 7 exceptions: A6, A13, A14, A15, HCDC 1, EDC 1, HS2. Councilmember Harris seconds. I can't do it. I'm just going to do a roll call. I can't. I've got certain pedantry in me. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sufferton. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hedegardis.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries, and the consent agenda with the 7 items previously enumerated is adopted. So if you're here for something that is on the consent agenda but was not just enumerated, you can go home. And if not, sorry. This was a cool experiment. If members of council can share with me if they prefer it this way or the previous way, let me know. I certainly have no strong preference. And I'm happy to go with the will of the group. Now for item SP1, is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd move item SP1, which is the City Council goals, for action.
I will second.
Councilmember Rogers moves adoption of City Council goal summaries. Councilmember Nieuwsma seconds. Is there any discussion? We begin with Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to clarify which set of goals Councilmember Rogers was moving. There was the set that he drafted, and there was a set with some minor tweaks by staff.
I will be moving the section that has been tweaked by staff, which is the second set of things, which had some minor tweaks on it.
I will be seconding that without further comment.
Councilmember Kelly, followed by Rogers.
I agree that council goals should generally be very broad, that the community gets behind. I wonder if for the first item on housing, if you would accept as a friendly amendment to strike supply and replace that with options and add affordable, and affordable housing by expanding affordable housing options.
I will accept part of that, but not all of that.
Okay.
I accept options being an acceptable replacement for supply. But since this is not a specific affordable housing goal, but housing affordability overall, if you would like to phrase that to options that are affordable, I am willing to accept that.
Okay. So expanding options that are affordable.
Correct.
Okay. I will send that. Great. Yes.
So as we wait for this to arrive, this is going to be a minor wording change to the housing affordability item, which can be found on page 37 of the packet. So this has arrived, and it strikes the word supply in expanding housing supply and replaces it with options that are affordable. So now it reads expanding housing options that are affordable. Correct, Councilmember? And that was accepted by Councilmember Rogers as a friendly amendment. So in that case, no vote is required on that. And we move on with Councilmember Rogers.
Thank you. I had one other tweak. I had raised the issue about the word fossil fuels. There was some discussion about that. I would actually, I'm typing it in right now, like to change that to greenhouse gas emissions, since it's not just exclusively fossil fuels themselves. But we are measuring greenhouse gases as yes, yep. I'm sending it to everybody in just a second. I'm waiting for a second.
I'll second that.
It should probably read greenhouse gas, Allison. So Councilmember Rogers moves to amend the climate action and resiliency goal by replacing fossil fuel with greenhouse gas. Councilmember Kelly seconds. And it's already there in front of us in writing, so I'm comfortable. Are you also sending it, Councilmember?
I mean, I'm fine. I've got it typed, but if it's up there.
It's up there, so
yeah,
I'm comfortable.
Fine,
Yeah.
if that's fine with you, yes.
In that case, will the clerk please take the roll on the...
Actually, I'm sorry. It should be greenhouse gas emissions, not pollution, was what I had suggested.
Glad you double-checked that. All right, so the amendment, the motion made by Councilmember Rogers and seconded by Councilmember Kelly is to replace the phrase fossil fuel pollution with the phrase greenhouse gas emissions. Will the clerk please take the roll on this amendment?
Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Are we, these two amendments, right, or just this one amendment?
Sorry. It's a single motion to make those two amendments. You're exactly right. No, the housing was already accepted as a friendly amendment, and therefore, because it was accepted by the sponsor as a friendly amendment, doesn't require a vote. The sponsor is the one making the second amendment, so he can't be his own friend, and therefore it requires a roll call.
That's very sad.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sufferton. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries, and the greenhouse gas emissions amendment is accepted. Seeing no further discussion, would the clerk please take the roll on the underlying goals, which have now been amended twice, once in the housing affordability section and once in the climate action resilience section, both of those Councilmember Kelly?
These aren't in any sequential order, right? I just want to make.
Correct. It's not by order of priority. I think it's by order of the order in which they were put there.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you to staff for projecting this. That's wonderful.
Councilmember Isles.
I really don't like the change. Sorry, I use my mic. I really don't like the change that was accepted as a friendly amendment. I don't think that wording's as good as it was originally. So
Well, as a procedural matter, it's certainly the right of the sponsor to accept the friendly amendment. You can make another motion to change it to something else if you want, and then there would probably be a roll call on that.
Okay, I'll make a motion to return to the original language in the housing affordability section.
I will second that.
Councilmember Isles moves to restore the original language in the housing affordability section. Councilmember Nieuwsma seconds. Would the clerk please take the roll? Oh, Councilmember Kelly.
Before you take the roll, Sean, I wonder if you would be more comfortable if we left it with expanding housing options and just took off that are affordable. Would that be
I prefer the word
acceptable?
supply.
You want the word supply. Okay, thank you.
Will the clerk please take the roll on Councilmember Isles' motion?
Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns. Councilmember Sufferton. No. Councilmember Davis.
No.
Councilmember Rogers.
No.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris. Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
With 5 voting in favor and 4 voting against, the motion carries, and the initial language is restored. I'm going to just break out of character for a second here. I really hope that we can adopt council rules unanimously, and so I would ask that we sort of like pause and figure out a way through this, because I think a 5-4 vote on the city council goals is not good for the city.
Not good for a comp plan either.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think goals should be very broad, that the community gets behind. They shouldn't be controversial. And I really think, for example, housing affordability could just be increase access to safe, high quality and affordable housing, period. Like that, I don't think there's anybody that argues with that. And I think they should be broad, like I say, and there shouldn't be controversy. And I agree with you, Mayor Biss, we shouldn't be split on these. Thank you.
Councilmember Isles.
I agree. There shouldn't be any controversy. These were sort of suggested by Councilmember Rogers and tweaked by staff. I don't think there was anything wrong with them. I thought greenhouse gas made it more specific, so I like that part, but I didn't see any need to change housing affordability. So I agree, it's uncontroversial.
Councilmember Rogers.
I'll just respond briefly to that. Councilmember Kelly asked me to make this change today. I agreed to it then. Since I had kind of taken the initiative on writing these to begin with, I was glad to have staff's input. Glad that they didn't change a whole lot during that process. I think one of the things as we're looking through all of this, these are all great things, and we sort of get into language having to mirror other language that we have and everything. I mean, in my opinion, we have one goal.
Yes, it's Caitlin that came in.
Go ahead, Councilmember.
And that's really to deliver city services to our residents as cost effectively as we can and as efficiently as we can and as well as we can. And all of this kind of falls underneath that. And so I don't really want to get into a whole bunch of semantics about it because I could make the goal, I could make the resolution that we literally just make that our goal and say, and we'll follow all of our plans because everything up here has a plan that works with it. Economic development, Evanston thrives. Climate action plan we have the comp plan that's just been adopted. We have a parks plan that's in process or we just adopted. I can't remember where exactly that was. So I mean, a lot of these things fall under that, but that's our overarching goal here. And so I think that a lot of this other stuff that falls underneath it, we argue about some of the individual words and things like that. I'm not going to vote against it because it has the word supply versus option. I think it's a bad word swap, and that was a bad presentation on my part, and I'm willing to admit it at the very beginning to have that language in there. But yeah, I think we just kind of need to move on from some of that.
Councilmember Kelly.
I mean, I think our goal should not be trying to describe how we're going to get to them because there's 1,000 ways to get to financial, stability. And I mean, I don't think, that's why I think each one should just end after our goal, which is increasing access. I think we all agree to increase what I said. Putting a period after affordable housing. I think we put a period after strengthen economic vitality and fiscal sustainability, period. I don't think we need to try to say how we're going to do it in a sentence or two because God knows there's myriad ways, other ways too, to get to these. So I think they should each be cut off at just our overarching goal and not be trying to say how we're going to get to them. So that's what I would recommend. Or that we go with Councilmember Rogers' idea of one simple sentence. We're just going to deliver, city services really well and efficiently and make sure that we address the needs of our residents, something broad.
Could I, continuing to wear my referee hat, propose a compromise? What if the word supply were just struck?
I mean, I would be fine with that.
Could both sides live with that? Councilmember Isles, if
Sure, in the interest of finding a compromise and a 9-0 vote on goals, that would be fine.
is there a motion to strike the word supply? Maybe seconded by someone who often votes against the person who makes the motion?
I'll make the motion to strike supply.
I'll second. Councilmember Rogers moves to strike the word supply. Councilmember Hedekati seconds. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns. Councilmember Sufferton. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hedekati.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries and the word supply is struck. And now would the clerk please take the roll on this, which has been amended again twice. A new version of the Housing Affordability Amendment strikes the word supply, and the Climate Action Resiliency Amendment is as previously discussed. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns. Councilmember Sufferton. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hedekati.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries. The goals are adopted, and I appreciate everyone's flexibility. I do think there's value in us having unanimous agreement on the goals that we're trying to achieve together.
Mr. Mayor, just a quick question.
Councilmember Rogers.
I think when we did our new reading of the consent agenda, we accidentally skipped the minutes since nobody chairs the minutes.
It should have been me, probably. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes?
I will make the motion currently that M1, approval of the minutes for the regular city council meeting on January 26, 2026 be adopted.
Second.
Councilmember Rogers moves moves approval of the January 26, 2026 minutes. Councilmember Harris seconds. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Nieuwsma. Councilmember Burns. Councilmember Sufferton. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor, none voting against, the motion carries and the minutes are adopted. Now, back to the consent agenda. We begin with item A6. Councilmember Kelly.
I'd like to move item A6, authorizing city manager to submit a grant application for federal funding through the Better Utilizing Investments to Leverage Development Grant Program.
Second.
Councilmember Kelly moves adoption of resolution 10-R-26. Councilmember Harris seconds. Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. I think this looks like a great project, so I'm not opposed to it. I'm just would like to know what are the projections in terms of cost all in, like construction, design, because this is, so I know this is for design services, so what's the all-in cost on this, the estimate? Because I just think we should have an idea of that. If we're applying for this grant for design, we should know what we're potentially committing to in terms of total cost.
Good evening, members of the City Council. My name is Chris Seuss. I'm the Assistant City Engineer. With regards to the overall cost for the construction phase, right now, because we have yet to do the preliminary feasibility based on the expectation of or scope of work that we would expect to happen, it would be roughly between 18 million to 20 million, which would include the revetment improvement, which was identified through our shoreline study. Sheridan Road was the most important or most critical shoreline in which need to have the revetment taken care of. So in addition to that, it would be an overall corridor improvement. A preliminary cost estimate on just this segment coming along Sheridan Road from the City of Chicago border up to just east of South Boulevard. That segment alone was roughly cost estimated to be $12 million. It would be a full reconstruction of the roadway, including shared use pathway, median removal, associated utility improvements, traffic signal, light improvements. It's a large corridor improvement. So we felt that going for a grant like this, given it's a multi-jurisdictional roadway between IDOT having ownership of the roadway, City of Chicago, and then potentially connecting to our proposed Chicago Avenue, we felt like this would be a good opportunity to take advantage of that.
So it's a shared IDOT project? IDOT will cover half the cost, or?
So the grant opportunity that we went for, it's 100% federally funded, meaning that there's no match on our end for
the grant I know. I'm talking about the construction.
So the construction phase is yet to be seen. It's right now under the jurisdiction of IDOT. So any potential future, we'd likely go for a similar grant opportunity, whether that be 100% or we'd have to put a 20% match. It's very likely that we would have to cover an associated portion. Whether IDOT would cover the others is yet to be determined.
So 18 to 20 million is what we're looking at. That's what you're speculating will be the cost for this project, that we're going to get a grant for the design, but then the cost going forward would be 18 to 20, and we're not really sure whether we'll share the cost with IDOT or not yet. Just so I know.
It remains
I think
to be
we
seen.
need to.
No, but it's the stretch from Sheridan Road all the way up to Chicago
Right.
Avenue.
No, I'm
so
not
it's large.
saying it's not a good project, but I just think in terms of long-term fiscal planning, to know like how it's going to be paid for, and when would it have to be completed? Do we?
Right now, it's pre-feasibility. We're going to go and do our phase 1 feasibility, and then it would go to design. Based on recent history, it really depends as how far we're going to go into that.
So there's
that
no,
stage.
in terms of the grant, in terms of what we're obligated to if we take the grant, there's no timeline involved.
Once we are awarded, it'll likely come with an agreement, which will give us some sort of sunset timeline. But at this moment, we don't.
But we should know if we're signing it. We should. I mean, if we're applying, so we don't know. So it'll come back to us then.
If we are awarded that grant application, it'll come. Further information would be given to us as far as when
And then
we
we
could
would
adopt
approve it. We would see the conditions and it would
Yes.
come back to council for
Yeah.
approval if we get it before we sign off on it.
The direction now is for us to apply for the grant. Once we are awarded, the expectation is that the city manager would authorize us to later sign that agreement in which you guys are requesting for us to proceed with. But
Okay. I guess it's still not real clear to me. I don't know if it's clear to everybody else, but so we're looking at 18 to 20 million. We don't know if maybe we'll be held to a deadline. We don't know yet until we get the grant.
So because it's a federal grant, it'll likely have to go through the IDOT process, which means that there's a certain timeline in which phase 1 and phase 2 take. It wouldn't be expected within the coming years. And upon, as I mentioned, upon receiving approval upon being awarded of the grant, that's when we'll have a better idea as far as the sunset of when that grant money could be spent, similar to other grant opportunities that we received.
So I'm just concerned that we commit ourselves, that we sign off, we take the grant, and then we're not going to find out. It seems like we should know the conditions before.
It's very likely that when we get that grant opportunity, there's enough timeline within that turnaround from phase 1 and phase 2 that we would foreseeably be able to apply for an additional grant for the construction phase at a later time.
Okay, I like the project. I'm just a little bit in terms of how, financially, how we're going to pay for this, what the deadlines are. I feel like that's a lot of money to not have a better grip on the long-term financing of the project. So, because if we take the grant, then we're obligated. And so I'm a little bit concerned.
We're only obligated up to design. So if we take the grant, we're obligated to do the phase 1 feasibility, move into the phase 2 design, and at that point, we'll have a good enough cost estimate to decide whether or not we would like to proceed with a given scope of work. We're not mandatory to.
But still,
move
it's
into the
taxpayer
construction.
dollars. I mean, so how much are we getting in this grant?
So it's zero taxpayer dollars.
Right,
It's
no, I mean,
fully
no, it's a
federally
grant,
funded.
so it's federal tax dollars. So what is the amount?
3.4 million.
I mean, that's a lot of money. I mean, I don't want to, anyway, okay. I just would like to have a better outlay of the plan for this. So I don't want us to take $3.4 million, just, we might as well just do this. We don't really know if we'll really do it. I mean, I think we should have a plan, like if we get, this is how it'll be funded, it has to be done by this amount of time, just a little more analysis of this project. But thank you.
Alex? Councilmember Rogers, followed by Harris.
Thank you. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to follow up because I think you've answered some of the questions. So we can take the phase 1, phase 2, which we're applying for at this point, but we're under no obligation to actually construct.
No.
So approving this tonight is not committing us to an $18 to $20 million construction project. That if we do this, we move through the design. If we are awarded this, move through the design with the 3.4 million, then you will be presenting to us a plan for the design itself. Here's what we're proposing. It's 18 to 20 million dollars, whatever those numbers are. And then we will be asked to vote on whether or not we want to proceed with the 18 to 20 million dollar price tag.
Yes.
Okay.
And it would be the idea that we would try to identify additional external funding sources via an additional grant.
I'm trying to clarify that we are not committing ourselves tonight to an 18 to 20 million dollar tab at this point.
Councilmember Harris, Hadakatis, Nieuwsma.
I think Councilmember Rogers really summed it up, that she said that we will make a decision based upon the phase 1, what it looks like, and in between that phase, we would look for additional funding to help. If it was a $20 million project, we'd look for additional funding to make sure. So I'm in favor of it. I think it's a great opportunity. You never know what you're going to get till the end that we say, yes, we like it, or we may say we don't. But you don't know that until you accept the offer. So thank you so much.
Councilmember Hadakatis, Nieuwsma.
Just for a little bit of context, so this reminds me a little bit of the work that like Evanston Transit Alliance has done with the Village of Skokie on the feasibility study about connecting the North Channel Trail to the Sheridan Road Trail. Typically, if you don't have a feasibility study, that first step, you're not even going to get any grants. You can't really apply for the grants because you don't have that first step. And so this design phase, while it's expensive, will be a grant, and we will be getting the feasibility of what it'll take to do this project, because it is a really big project connecting Chicago, a main throughway to Evanston. So I think it's a really important first step, because typically, and you can probably, you can answer this, Chris, if you don't have a feasibility study when you apply for these grants, you typically don't get them, correct?
That's correct. Most of the time, you're not even, without a phase one feasibility, you're not really in good standing to apply for a phase two design and have it be competitive against others. So this is one of the rare opportunities that, because it's a larger type grant, you can actually go for both phase one and phase two, given that it's multi-jurisdictional. We have a letter of support from the city of Chicago, and which would want to put us in that direction. So,
Yeah. So this is, I think, a really important first step for this potential project.
Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chris, I just want to confirm that the project that we're talking about here has been a part of our capital improvement plan for quite some time. And we're not just chasing grant money and trying to find a project that we can do if we get a grant. Like, this is a project we want to do. We've said we want to do it, and a grant is, we're hoping to get a grant to help us do this project. Is that correct?
So it's been an existing maintenance concern, that stretch of Sheridan Road, in addition to the that lakefront study that I mentioned, identified an additional reason. It hasn't been identified in our existing CIP as to a project that we have in the coming years, but given its location of being a historically adverse and impoverished area, it's one of the only projects that we have that we can apply for full 100% federal funding. So that's why we went after
But
this.
the revetment has been part of our discussion for quite some time. So, like, we're not just chasing money here to do something that the money allows us to do. We need to do this work. We're looking for outside money to help us do the work.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
At this time, no one is asking to speak for a first time, so we go back to Councilmember Harris with 425 left.
So do we have no other information than what is presented here? I just want to know. In the memo.
There is a notice of funding opportunity document which I can share with the council. I believe it was provided perhaps in the APW response, but I can provide a document in which kind of summarizes the overview of what the grant opportunity is. We do still have some time. It's February 24th is the deadline, so I'd be willing to share that with members of the council.
Okay, I'm not saying that I necessarily want to hold it up. I just would like to further dig in to address concerns brought by the council. So I have no problem voting.
Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns. Councilmember Sufferton. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris. Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries, and Resolution 10-R-26 is adopted. Now, again, A13 we skip. Councilmember Kelly, do you want to make a rule suspension motion relative to item A14?
I would. I would like to move to suspend the rules. Well, first I have to move item A14.
No, first you suspend the rule.
So I'd like to move to suspend the rules to then take a vote for intro and action. But first we suspend the rules.
Can we do that for A14 and A15? One suspension?
Let's go with A14 first. Because I had one question
Point
on
of order,
A15.
A13 has been pulled from the agenda, so it's.
No. Councilmember Nieuwsma points out a different error, which is that A15 should have also been pulled for intro and action, which we will dispense with after this. Oh, no, it was pulled, yes. But it sounds like Councilmember Kelly wants to handle them separately.
I just had one question on A15, so if that's right.
Second.
Councilmember Kelly moved to suspend Rule 20.1 so that Ordinance 1-0-26 may be introduced and acted upon tonight. Councilmember Harris seconds. Would the clerk please take the roll on the motion to suspend the rule?
Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns. Councilmember Sufferton. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion to receive the required unanimous vote, and Rule 20.1 is suspended so that Ordinance 1-0-26 may be acted upon tonight. Pursuant to that, Councilmember Kelly, do you care to make a motion?
I'd like to move Ordinance 00126, amending Title I, Chapter 17, Contracts with the City.
Second.
Councilmember Kelly moves introduction and action. Final passage of ordinance 1-0-26. Councilmember Nieuwsma seconds. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns. Councilmember Sufferton. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries, and ordinance 1-0-26 is passed. Now on item A15, Councilmember Kelly, would you care to make a rule suspension motion?
Yes, I'd like to suspend the rules for item A15, or for introduction and action. Ordinance 17026, authorizing the city manager to sell city-owned property at 2120 and 2122 Darrow Avenue.
Second.
Councilmember Kelly moves suspension of Rule 20.1 so that ordinance 17-0-26 may be introduced and acted upon in the same evening. Councilmember Harris seconds. Would the clerk please take the roll? Oh, sorry, Councilmember Kelly.
I just had one question for the public. There's no mention in here. I talked with Ms. Director Flax. So it says selling our public land. Can you, at no cost, or can you, because it's not mentioned in here, if you could just clarify for the public.
Yeah, this question doesn't seem relevant to the rule suspension.
I'm sorry.
So why don't we vote on the rule suspension and then make a motion and then have the discussion?
Okay.
Will the clerk please take the roll on the rule suspension?
Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sufferton is out of the room. Oh, Councilmember Sufferton, yes. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion receives the required unanimous vote, and therefore Rule 20.1 is suspended so that ordinance 17-0-26 may be introduced and acted upon in the same evening. Now, Councilmember Kelly, do you have a motion pursuant to that rule suspension?
Thank you. Yes, just because it says we're selling.
No, do you have a motion?
I'm sorry, do I have a motion on the item?
To pass the thing.
I apologize.
Yeah.
Okay, I now would like to move item A15, ordinance 17026, authorizing the city manager to sell city-owned property at 2120 and 2122 Darrow.
Second.
Councilmember Kelly moves introduction and action, final passage of ordinance 17-0-26. Councilmember Harris seconds. Now, Councilmember Kelly, you have the floor.
This is not because I object necessarily, but I think for the public, it's important because we're talking about selling this, but there's no mention of the price, which I assume there isn't one, but at least if you could tell us about that.
Good evening, Mayor Biss and members of City Council, Sarah Flax, Community Development Director. These lots are being sold for $1 each. That's what we have to officially do when we close. But this is in keeping with the city's agreement with ETHS, Section 4, city role and responsibilities, acquisition of property prior to March 1st of each year of this agreement. The city, without financial contribution from ETHS, will obtain vacant property of sufficient size and zoned appropriately to allow for the location of a residence. The structure constructed may be a single family or a duplex. So it's in keeping with that.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Rogers.
Ms. Flax, don't go away quite yet. I just have a question. You said without financial, the dollar is significant enough that we aren't worried about it being a truly financial transaction, but.
No, well, we debated going up to $10. No, that's
No, I mean,
just official.
I'm assuming
Yeah.
ETHS is paying us $2 for this, or are we just writing it off, or is it a rounding
Just-
error, or what
That's
do we
just
do?
the way the documents are written.
All right, thank you.
Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns. Councilmember Sufferton.
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris. Councilmember Isles.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries, and ordinance 17-0-26 is passed. Again, this is final passage. We now move to HCDC 1. Councilmember Burns, do you have a motion?
Move approval of ordinance 2026 to amend Title 5, Chapter 9, of the City Code vacation rentals for action.
Second.
Councilmember Burns moves approval of ordinance 2-0-26. Councilmember Nieuwsma seconds. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I sent an email out 4:43 this afternoon, capturing in one motion the changes that are written in the packet in front of us, that it's my understanding staff made those changes based on council direction, but we have not formally approved that language as an amendment to this ordinance. So, I'm making the motion that we had formally adopt the amended language. Some of this is in 592, and some of it is in 593B. That email was sent at 4:43 this afternoon to council and staff.
I'll second.
Councilmember Nieuwsma moves to accept the changes that are already in the packet but have not been previously voted on by this council, which were, by the way, further forwarded by the council member to City Council at 4:43 this afternoon. Councilmember Rogers seconds. Councilmember Rogers, you were in the queue, but I imagine not to discuss this. Is that right?
Correct.
Councilmember Kelly.
Regarding the language that's in the packet right now, can I propose an amendment to it? Because I think
Not at this time, but certainly at this time, what's before the council is an amendment to the language in the packet.
Right.
Once that's voted on, then you could propose an amendment at that point. In that case, will the clerk please take the roll on the amendment offered by Councilmember Nieuwsma?
Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns. Councilmember Suffredin. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries, and ordinance 2-0-26 is adopted as previously described, is amended as previously described. Councilmember Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Councilmember Kelly's going to address some of my concerns in a minute. But the one thing I wanted to raise the question about is the 600 feet versus 25% of a building and how we square those two things. You can't have 2 units in a building because that's closer than 600 feet. So one of the two has to go, in my opinion. That's a question for staff. If there's a way that, I mean, this has been kind of a moving target. So I know we've been adding language, removing language and everything. And I think this is probably just an oversight in the language because I don't see how you can have both of these as a requirement. So thank you. I'll let you respond.
Absolutely. So the intent was to create an exception to that 600-foot rule so that in the case of multi-unit buildings, there could be more than one in a multi-unit building. Obviously, it's up to council if you wanted to allow that, but that was the intent.
But does that language say specifically that this is an exemption to the 600 feet? Or is that just how we're interpreting it?
So the language, let me see if I can find it here.
I think the question specifically, and at least in the version of the packet I have, it's page 10 of 17 of the memo and page 240 of the full packet. I think the issue is that in item B1, it lays out the 600-foot rule, and then it says, in the case of multi-unit buildings, the following shall apply, and that's where the other rule is laid out, and it doesn't say instead. Right. Is that your point, Councilmember?
Yeah, the two, there's no disqualifying language between the two, therefore the two exist simultaneously.
So disqualifying language could be inserted there to make two, what's the word I'm looking for? To clarify that it is an exception.
Okay. And I'm not going to make that motion because I think 25% is high in some buildings. You know, in my particular condo, we have 25 units, so that's a significant amount of the units in my building that would be eligible potentially. So I don't want to make that motion if somebody else does. I would like to remove the 25% language, but
Councilmember Burns.
Sarah, in the referral that was made today, it talked about STRRIs will be responsible for remitting the hotel motel taxes. I don't see that in Councilmember Nieuwsma's amendment, and so I just want to make sure I understand where we're going to include that in the ordinance. It kind of stops short of saying that.
So, if I may, in section
593B.
Section 599.
Is there?
A, it says all short-term rentals must use a licensed short-term residential rental intermediary to list or advertise as available for rental any short-term rental and remit the taxes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I know all this happened, today, and so I just wanted to make sure that got in there. Thank you.
At this time, no one is asking to speak for a first time, so we go back to Councilmember Nieuwsma with 420 left.
Quick procedural point of order on that 599A. Should that language have also been included in the motion I made earlier? It should have. Okay. So I will make that just procedural motion that we formally approve the amendment in front of us written as 599A. The language is in the document. I can put it in an email if you want.
No, it's in the packet, so I'm comfortable. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Nieuwsma moves to approve the language 599A from the packet. Councilmember Burns seconds. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns. Councilmember Sufferton. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Haggerty.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries and that amendment is adopted. It's still the case that no one's asking to speak for a first time, so we go back to Councilmember Kelly with 455 left.
I would like to move to amend the definition of vacation short-term rental to unstrike shorter than 30 consecutive days.
I'll second.
So it's on page, and I can send it, copy and paste it, but it's just unstriking and then removing of less than 1 year. So that is on page 5, definition, vacation short-term rental. Should I send it?
Please do send it. So it basically reverses the amendment here. So it would strike the new words of less than 1 year and restore the old words shorter than 30 consecutive days, correct?
Correct. Yep.
So Councilmember Kelly moves to do that, which I just described. In other words, replace of less than 1 year with shorter than 30 consecutive days. She's sending that in writing at this time. Councilmember Rogers seconds. Is there any discussion about this amendment? Councilmember Nieuwsma.
I'm going to ask staff to weigh in here and kind of tell us why you are proposing the change.
So the intent was to not allow a loophole because what could open up with this is if somebody was to list on a short-term rental platform a rental for 30 days or 40 days, then they would be unregulated by this ordinance. This ordinance would not apply to them because it would be longer than 30 days. They wouldn't fall under a different category like a long-term rental listed under Title V, Chapter 8 that's registered with the city, but they also wouldn't fall under this ordinance. So it would be unregulated effectively.
Wait, so if the language read 30 days or less, somebody could list something for 32 days and the ordinance wouldn't apply.
Correct.
Nor would the regular rental ordinance apply.
Correct.
So that would be the loophole that you are attempting to close by making this draft in front of us say 12 months, 1 year or less.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Councilmember Rogers.
So if someone rents for 32 days, they're not a short-term rental, they're not a long-term rental, what are they? We regulate all rentals, so under which, how do we classify them? They're in violation of 2 different ordinances, in my opinion. They aren't a short-term rental, they aren't a long-term rental, so they're violating both those ordinances. They don't exist. They cannot operate legally.
So they're not regulated by any ordinance then?
So do we need to
Just hold.
so what's our definition of a long-term rental?
Have to look it up.
Should be, how about just rental? Why not
Or just rental
Just
even?
rental, with 30 days or more, because all leases start at 30, I mean, that's a legal definition. 30 days is a lease, and as opposed to, that's why it should say less than 30 days, because you don't want to trigger, when someone writes a lease at 30 days, that they're now being qualified and categorized as a vacation rental. So you want to keep it to less than 30 days, so that a typical, a month lease or a 2-month lease starts at 30 days.
We can do that, whatever council would like to
So
decide on.
that's why I want to move it
Could
to.
Our standard lease for a normal, the standard lease, a fixed lease, term lease is 12 months. They can be shorter than that, we know that, but they are fixed term leases. So when we had some people who applied for short-term rentals, and they were not owner-occupied, and they were denied licenses, and one of them said, well, then I'll just rent for more than 30 days. So this, by extending short-term rentals that are done on these platforms to being up to a year, we include those in the category that is covered by this ordinance and also by the hotel motel tax, which otherwise I believe we would not have covered. And that could be a significant loss, because there were also people who were saying they were renting for longer than 30 days. For example, there was a vacation rental that said they had construction workers staying at their place for something like 3 months or something like that. So this is really why we came up with this period of time.
Do I still have the floor? Okay, I just wanted to make sure, I wasn't sure where we were with everything. So I guess my question is, instead of defining this, should we be defining the rentals that are 30 days and longer and making that a leased option? Because I think where it's getting kind of muddy is because vacation rentals and short-term rentals are kind of the same thing, but not quite the same thing at some level.
They're actually sometimes handled differently in different parts of the country and different places. There is nothing that I'm aware of that says that the rental platforms that we're talking about, these intermediaries, are going to be always renting for less than 30 days.
Okay.
So I think one thing that's also happening is now that we've made some amendments to this ordinance, we're saying that it has to be listed on a short-term residential rental intermediary on a platform. So if something is listed on a platform as a short-term rental for more than 30 days, then how are we classifying it? Are we saying that it can't be listed for more than 30 days? Or are we saying that it would then have to have a lease as a long-term residential rental? We end up with kind of an in-between there, so.
I mean, so with the exception of the one that was cited, how have we been dealing with this as a city? Or have we?
So we've been considering them as a short-term residential rental, as a vacation rental. If it's listed on a platform, we've been considering it a vacation rental.
So if I listed my vacation rental for 50 days, you're still classifying me as a short-term rental?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess I don't see how the 30 days even applies at all then in this. Or a year or any other period of time. I mean, if it's our classification, it's our classification. And that's where I guess I'm getting kind of confused on this, is that if there seems to be more than just the period of time that's involved here. And that's where it's getting confusing, is because the period of time isn't the same. If I'm Miss Payton and lease a place for 3 months and I've signed a lease, I haven't signed a full year lease, so am I a long-term rental? Am I a short-term rental? What am I?
You would be registered under Title V, Chapter 8 of the city code, so it would be a long-term rental under lease.
So we could say anything 30 days or longer is classified under Chapter 5.9 or 5.8 or whichever one we're talking about.
So then you'd be saying that anything longer than 30 days could not be considered a short-term rental, couldn't be listed on a short-term rental platform, and would need to have a lease registered with the city.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but that's what I'm saying.
All right, we'll go next to the only person asking to speak who's not spoken yet, Councilmember Hadakaris.
So our, this referral has been to kind of close loopholes and shut the door on what's a lot of us think is just the commodification of housing. And I think, me personally, if we do this and we leave, like, I appreciate that staff has, we're like, writing this line where we're trying to do as much as we can to limit this, but also stay within, law and not, expose ourselves. And so I appreciate that we have this up to 1 year. I think, we kind of have a time frame where we need to kind of shut the door for the preliminary, moratorium before that runs out. Me personally, I would rather us have this up to 1 year and have this kind of broad inclusion of the short-term rentals and have that on the books. And I think we do need to look at what these shorter-term non-vacation rental leases and how that fits in the whole picture. So I would suggest that we pass it the way it is tonight and then maybe start a referral to look at this gray area between the 30 days and a year and move forward, because I think we've been at this for a while and I don't know if there's consensus to what the best way to handle these is.
Councilmember Kelly is next.
So I just want to say we would be an outlier. I mean, most cities, it's 30, less than 30 days is short-term rental. And I know, I'm just going to give an experience. I know my brother in Florida in a little town in Florida, had an Airbnb that he was running. He had no idea they had a rule that said that you couldn't do that. And when someone turned him in, so he had to stop, and he then was obligated to rent for at least 30 days. And that turned into long-term rentals. They now has, people who rent there year-round but that's what you need simply is to say that anything less than 30 days, like everywhere else, it works that way. I mean, he now rents year-round with year-long leases but in a town like this, where you have a university town where you have people coming in, I mean, we will have more instances where he happens to live like 30, month-to-month leases aren't as common, but that's what they do everywhere in the nation. I find it really, and we have stakeholder with us with deep tissue understanding. I really think we should be hearing from the stakeholders who are with us. I know some of you object to that, but I think they can speak to this, why it's so important, better than I can even from that experience. But I do know that simply worked. It was less than 30 days is considered short-term rental, and it was banned in this town. And therefore, because it had to be 30 days or more, it led to regular long-term leases. I don't know why we would want to be this outlier city and make it up to 1 year. I just, it feels like punitive too for our, folks here, our local landlords who do provide, wonderful rental units. Rental should just be 30 days or more, period. It's just rental. We don't need to get into all the short term, just rental is 30 days or more.
Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Andrew, I understand the objective was to close a loophole, which I appreciate, but I'm looking at Title V, Chapter 8, And I'm not sure there is a loophole here because in section 582 of code, which is the definitions under chapter 8, which is registration of rental residential buildings. That's ordinary everyday 12-month lease rentals or less are regulated under this section of code. And in that section, the definition of permanent rental housing reads as follows: any dwelling unit, including accessory dwelling units, rented for a period of 30 days or more. Right, so that, I'm not sure there is a loophole, because if it's 31 days, you want to rent it to somebody for 31 days, you're Title V, Section 8. If you want to rent it for 29 days, you use the short-term rental. So I don't know if there's an actual loophole there.
So I think then what we would need to define is that you would not be able to list a rental that's 30 days or longer on a short-term rental platform. It would have to have a lease, is what we're saying.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Sorry.
So I think
Apologies,
the
go ahead.
appropriate change then, I think where we're converging, is for the short-term rental, which we're, reviewing.
And just traffic control. What's in front of us is the amendment from Councilmember Kelly to make it 30 days.
So that would seem to be appropriate. And you're suggesting that we would also need to clarify that a listing on a short-term rental platform could not be for longer than 30 days.
Well, maybe we can ask legal counsel if we would need to clarify that, or if that definition would simply be enough in itself.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council, Alex Ruggie, Corporation Counsel. I don't think it would hurt to clarify language. The point of legislative drafting is the clearer it is for everyone, the better. If we're having questions, others will. So I think in this situation, if you have a friendly amendment even to this motion, it can be added to clarify it.
Which I don't at the moment.
Could let me interject and ask, if there's a few more people in line to speak, could I ask you to prepare that language while the debate continues?
Sure.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilmember Nieuwsma, you have the floor still. Councilmember Burns.
I actually don't have anything to this amendment, but I would like to speak to the item after.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Councilmember Kelly, once we have the language on how to, from Council Ruggie, would you accept a friendly amendment to just add that to your?
Yeah, I'm not really understanding what language we're adding to that basic language.
This would be making clear that if you want to use one of the Airbnb style platforms, you can only rent up to 30 days using that platform.
I mean, I think there's a law around that. Anyway, isn't there?
No.
There's nothing that stipulates?
No.
Okay.
So that would just be in additional language that Council Ruggie is putting.
The law that was submitted to the city is about a taxing for short-term rentals under the state period. It does not mandate that that's the definition of the short-term rental. It does for that statute for the taxing period.
Let's see. So in other words, it would just be putting folks on notice that if you're renting for 30 days or more, you can't post your advertise on a VRBO. Is that
Exactly.
That's the upshot of it. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
I mean, I think if that's, but I would like to hear, I'm sorry, but if you don't mind, I would like to hear from either Carlos or Tina Payton. If that, I mean, does that make sense for those who do have leases of month to month? Is there an issue with that? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a property owner and I don't rent, so I don't know how that impacts, what the impacts are, or if that's common.
So if I could clarify, in the definition for short-term rentals, it's clarified that does not apply to month-to-month rentals or fixed leases that are registered under Title V, Chapter 8. So those rentals would not be considered short-term rental units either way.
Okay, so I think it's fine. I don't know what unintended consequences are, but it sounds fine. Unless there's something that I'm missing, but otherwise, okay.
Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have another question, another observation. If we approve this amendment to define short-term rentals as 30 days or less.
No, less than 30 days.
Less
It's very
than 30,
important.
whatever.
That's important.
Less than 30 days. A landlord wants to rent a property for 35 days. What do we care where they advertise that property, whether it's Craigslist or Airbnb, it doesn't really matter. If they want to rent it for more than 30 days, they have to be, they have to be licensed per Title V, Section 8. Like, that's the governing thing. Where they advertise it is kind of neither here nor there.
Councilmember Nieuwsma, I can respond to that. The city plans to have the taxes remitted by that advertising body and then also create a licensure for them. So it's a revenue stream, but it's also a way for the city to accurately monitor the receipt of the tax revenue.
So, but it is a thing we can say legally. We can, if you want to do a long-term rental, which we're defining as longer than 30 days, you can't use an Airbnb or VRBO platform. We can say that?
I believe you can say that, and I don't think that's how VRBOs.
Yeah.
That's not their platform. We crafted this language a lot based on what the city of Chicago put out in their short-term rental.
Okay. I think we're getting close.
Councilmember Kelly.
So, I mean, it is really important that we do, I mean, it's great to have property owners who rent to, like on sabbaticals.com or whatever it was called. I mean, could they rent there? I mean, it just seems like defining this based on where they advertise, it sounds more like it's just sort of a gouge to get more taxes, more money into the city. I'm a little bit concerned because there's such an array of sites, like the one that someone mentioned this evening at public comment. I mean, would that be included, excluded, sabbaticals.com? I mean, because it doesn't. We have Northwestern here, and this is a service and that's provided that's important in a university city. So I get a little bit concerned about this idea that we're going to stipulate where you're allowed to advertise your month-to-month leases. I do question even the legality of that.
So one thing I can say is when it comes to Airbnb, VRBO, and other hosting platforms, they are not asking for, you're not getting a lease for that property, you're renting it through that platform. So it wouldn't be falling under what would normally be considered a long-term rental that would have a month-to-month lease or a lease for 45 days, whatever it might be. It would just be going through that platform's way of doing business.
So I guess I'd like to know, if I could ask, how frequently do property owners who rent month to month use these platforms? Can somebody, I know we have folks in here who could probably answer that. I mean, are they never used, these platforms for, so if I'm understanding correctly, this would not impact your ability, like typically you don't advertise through these platforms? I mean,
I rent to the students through Northwestern.
okay.
And I also have what you quote, regular tenants,
Mhm.
and I have them month to month. So now you're telling me that it's gonna be called a short-term rental, and you just.
No, we're not. No, we're not. That's what we're hoping to amend right now. So this would not be considered short-term rental. But I guess my question is, if we restrict to where you're able to advertise, does this impact, will this have a negative impact for you? Yeah.
Just point order, could we give microphones out if we're going to do this?
So it's helpful though, right?
I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying, can we give people microphones? Thank you.
I mean, I just want to be clear. Whether or not we like it, and I don't, we've always had the same practice here for the last 5 years, which is that if a member of council wants to ask a question of someone in the room, they can do it. So if you want to do it, do it.
I do. So there are three, I think, stakeholders here, three property owners.
So to the point, I think it's making a bad situation worse if people sort of just yell across the room. So if there's a question for you, come to the podium and
I'd
answer
like to
it.
know what the impact would be for those of you who do provide a great service in a university.
Overhearing a lot of the conversations and being having short-term rentals, vacation rentals for 15 years, there's so many variables that I don't think you're weighing in on. I think one of the most important things is that when someone rents in Evanston a short-term rental, that it's, a nice property, that it fits all the regulations and everything. That should be why you'd have a license.
Hold on, why don't you state the question?
Yeah, my question is more specific. If we were to restrict so it's no longer a 30-day lease or a 2-month lease, or whatever, is no longer considered short-term, but it's just rental, period, like it is in many cities, probably most across the nation. But we restricted, in order to not be qualified as a VRBO or vacation rental, you would not be allowed to use, I suppose we would provide a list of sites that you couldn't advertise on.
Well, I think you'd be missing, I think how people advertise should be up to them. Whether you can charge them, taxes, I think these sites pay the taxes. So if someone rents for 40 days, the city of Evanston is going to get more revenue. Right. If someone's renting an apartment for 3 or 4 months, while you might get someone come in on Airbnb, it costs you as a landlord more money.
Right. So in other words, you're saying you don't think we should be restricting the sites you can, and that we would still get the revenue even if you did. So
I don't think that works to what you want to accomplish. I think having 2 types of rentals, one for under 30 days that's regulated by vacation rental ordinance is a good idea, and everything else, where there being a lease or a legal agreement is a good idea.
Thank you very much.
And I think that covers everything.
Alex?
Thank you. So I looked at the definition again and looked at Councilmember Kelly's amendment. I believe if the language just goes back to your amendment, that encompasses what we're trying to do. And Andrew and I were able to talk about it briefly. So I don't think a friendly amendment is necessary.
So just to reiterate, and you guys have it in your email, the amendment before the council is to revert the language from of less than 1 year back to shorter than 30 consecutive days. Would the Daniel please call the roll? Councilmember Nieuwsma, this is again on the amendment from Councilmember Kelly. Aye. Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sufferton. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakatis.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Aye. Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries and the amendment is adopted. Councilmember Burns.
I know in talking to Councilman Rogers earlier, he felt like this was something that, I don't know if you were going to ask for it to be held one more meeting. We have until March for it to be before the moratorium expires. I think we've done a lot here already. I think there might be other motions. I have a motion that I started talking to staff with today. So I think we can bring this back at the next meeting and still have for adoption, and we can still have time before the moratorium expires. And that's what I would like to see.
Councilor Burns moves to table this item to the February 23rd City Council meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Rogers seconds. The motion to table is not debatable. So I take the roll. Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns. Aye. Councilmember Sufferton. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakatis.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries. The item is tabled to the February 23rd meeting. And I just want to remind everyone that The item that will come back was amended pursuant to Councilmember Kelly's amendment that passes, and so it will arrive back for action on the 23rd in that form. Now, EDC 1, Councilmember Suffredin.
I move item EDC 1, approval of retail pop-up incubator strategy and implementation plan.
Second.
Councilmember Suffredin moves approval of the retail pop-up incubator strategy and implementation plan. Councilmember Nieuwsma seconds. Councilmember Burns.
I sent over either this could be amendment or friendly amendment, either one. This is some language that I worked on with Paul Zalmazak, our economic development manager. There's a lot here, but there's still a lot that I think needs to be fine-tuned. And instead of those things being bogged down here and figuring all that here, the language, if approved, and I'll just read it, says City Council approves funding of up to $100,000 contingent upon the successful negotiation of a program agreement that defines the program's design, establishes clear milestones, and identifies specific measures for success. Again, that's something we could hash out here if we want. I think it would require more than this meeting to do that, and so we could approve this with the expectation that our city manager, along with our economic development manager, would kind of hash out all the finer details.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Burns moves to amend this item by adding the following. The City Council approves funding of up to $100,000 contingent upon the successful negotiation of a program agreement that defines the program's design, establishes clear milestones, and identifies specific measures for success. Councilmember Kelly seconds. There were lights on and they all went off. Does that mean? Okay. Will the clerk please? No, I'm the clerk. So I'm now going to take a roll call on the amendment that Councilmember Burns proposed. Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns. Councilmember Suffredin. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaitis.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Aye. Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries and the amendment is approved. And now we'll vote on the amended proposal. Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns. Councilmember Suffredin. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaitis.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Aye. Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries, and the retail pop-up / incubator strategy and implementation plan is approved as previously amended. Now on item HS2, Councilmember Hadakaitis.
I move approval of ordinance 11-026, amending Title 9, Chapter 4, Section 7, restraint of animals required to the city code.
Second.
Councilmember Hadakaitis moves introduction of ordinance 11-0-26. Councilmember Nieuwsma seconds. Councilmember Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had actually mentioned this last time. This is a little bugaboo I just sent to everybody, that it says all animals must be restrained except cats, and animals are defined as things that are domestic and wild. So I will not be putting a leash on any coyotes myself in the 8th Ward, so I have proposed adding the word domestic in front of animals as part of the animals that are required to be restrained.
Second.
Councilmember Rogers moves to amend ordinance 11-0-26 by adding the word domestic as just described as well as emailed. Councilmember Nieuwsma seconds. Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns. Aye. Councilmember Suffredin. Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember
Yep. Aye.
I don't know what I'm doing here. Councilmember Hadakaitis.
Aye.
Great. Everyone's for it over there. Some several times. Councilmember Kelly? Aye. Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Isles?
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries, and the ordinance is amended with the addition of the word domestic. And now we'll call for a final vote on the for introduction of the amended ordinance. Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sufferton. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakatis.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
With 9 voting in favor and none voting against, and so ordinance 11-0-26 as amended is introduced. This brings us now to call of the wards. Councilmember Sufferton.
You said suffered.
Right. Good job, Daniel. Councilmember Nieuwsma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 3 quick items. Number 1, stay tuned for a naming contest. We are going to ask for community input, and the community will vote on what to call the new dog park at Gray Park. Announcement coming soon. Announcement number 2, 4th Ward office hours this month will be Saturday, the 14th from 10 to noon at Berry Pike. And announcement number 3, my March ward meeting will be Tuesday, March 3rd, 7 p.m. at Robert Crown in room D upstairs, not room BC, which is our normal space, because that will be in use for early voting. End.
Councilmember Burns.
Just also wanted to share my condolences with the passing of Craig Franciano, Dar's late husband, not only to Dar, but also to the many extended family that they have. It's a big family. It's a really important family, not only to the ward, but the city of Evanston. Just wanted to extend my condolences. Thank you.
Councilmember Davis.
Nothing to report.
Councilmember Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be holding a virtual 8th Ward meeting on February 19th at 6:30. That's it.
Councilmember Hadakatis.
9th Ward meeting next Monday on the 16th at the Prieto Center. Will be in the cafe area.
Councilmember Kelly.
No report.
Councilmember Harris.
No report at this time.
Councilmember Isles.
We're going to have our first meeting about the renovation of Burnham Park on the 18th. And because that's normally my office hours, I'm going to move my office hours to Hoosier Mamas on the 16th from 6 to 8.
And with nothing further on our agenda, the February 9th, 2026 meeting of the Evanston City Council stands adjourned.